One of the most redeeming qualities of our ancestors in Torah is that they were imperfect. They messed up, they made mistakes, they said the wrong thing, and they did the wrong thing many, many times. Why is this a redeeming quality? Well, because it makes them relatable. We read about their lives and their experiences and their struggles, and we understand. We get it. Because we too are flawed. As human beings, we all share this journey, sometimes rising to our potential and being the best version of ourselves, and sometimes missing the mark. Sometimes leaving an experience well aware that we hope that we can do better next time. This week's Torah portion starts off with Jacob leaving home after deceiving his father, Isaac, stealing his brother's birthright and blessing. We've heard many stories at this point in Torah about Jacob acting in a way that was less than perfect. And here he is, running away from home. We imagine how Jacob might have felt, alone, afraid, unsure what would happen next. Maybe he missed his family. Maybe he regretted some of his choices. And maybe he was excited to get away. We think of times in our own life where we were setting out, leaving our past behind and hoping for a brighter future. Sometimes running away from something, sometimes running towards something, and sometimes both. Let's turn to page 25 as we read a bit of this story together. And Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. Coming upon a certain place, he passed the night there, for the sun was setting. Taking one of the stones of the place, he made it his headrest as he lay down in that place. He dreamed, and a ladder was set on the ground with its top reaching up to heaven, and there were angels of God going up and coming down on it. And Adonai stood up above it and said, I, Adonai, am the God of your father Abraham and God of Isaac. The land on which you are lying I will give to you and your descendants. And your descendants shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out to the west and the east and the north and the south. Through you and your descendants all the families of the earth shall find blessing. And here I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this soil. I will not let go of you as long as I have yet to do what I have promised you. Waking from his sleep, Jacob said, Truly Adonai is in this place, and I did not know it. He was awestruck and said, How awe-inspiring is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Jacob was possibly experiencing one of the hardest times of his life. He was all alone on this new journey. He just experienced incredible family drama that did not end peacefully or with any closure. And then he has this holy moment with God in his dream. The holy moment, I believe, is not simply the dream itself of the ladder and the conversation with the divine. The holy moment is when Jacob is transformed. When Jacob wakes up and says, Yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh ve'anochi lo yodati. God is in this place, and I did not know it. All of a sudden, he does know it. He feels God's presence surrounding him, comforting him and keeping him company when he was alone. And we can too. When we feel lonely, when we feel afraid, we can feel God's presence helping us through. And we can feel connected to something bigger than ourselves. This is absolutely one of my favorite lines of Torah, because I believe this is life. This is every moment, whether it's a seemingly mundane moment or an awful, horrible, painful moment, or even a joyous and awesome moment. We have the opportunity to experience holiness. As our prayer book reminds us, entrances to holiness are everywhere. Everywhere. Now, has anyone in this room experienced one of these Yesh Adonai Hamakom Hazeh moments? One of these moments where suddenly we become aware of holiness, of the depth and the beauty of an experience, the way Jacob did when he was all alone, but suddenly was no longer alone. Where do we find our holiness? And where do we feel connected to something bigger than ourselves? I'd love to pause for a moment and give everyone the opportunity, just with the people who are near you, if you want to share, if you've ever had a moment like this, where maybe you were not feeling so connected or so good in that moment, and then something changed and you were able to feel, whether it was God's presence or just something bigger than yourself helping you through. And if you don't have an example like that, I welcome you to share why it's difficult in this world to have those types of holy moments that our ancestors had so often. So let's take a moment and share, and then we'll come back. These are the conversations I hope we have more of. I don't think we talk about this stuff enough. We go about our daily routine, and we don't always pause and step out of that routine to talk about these sorts of spiritual and divine things that maybe are even awkward to talk about because we never talk about them. So I really invite you, whether with your family or your friends, or even by yourself if you're on a run or a walk and you're just thinking about the stress in your life, to maybe put that aside and to talk about spirituality, to talk about God, whether you believe in God or you don't, to still have those conversations because they can be really meaningful and really powerful. And what we hear from others can maybe help us to find that holiness in our life that maybe we weren't experiencing, but then we hear that someone else has experienced it. So maybe in one of your conversations just now, maybe somebody shared that they experienced holiness while at the doctor, right? Because there's holiness in medicine, and there's holiness in technology, and there's holiness in the care of other humans who are serving to help us to live. Like something as simple as going to the doctor is filled with holiness, something like that. So let's keep having these conversations, and Shabbat Shalom.